Projekt Nigel testet den Mk4 Volkswagen Golf.
The car that you see behind me here is a Volkswagen Golf, a VW Golf, and it's not a pretty one. No, not with these odd coloured wings. And you may say, well, that's irrelevant, but actually it's not. Because one of the inherent faults with this Volkswagen and others of this age, and other Volkswagens as well, and Volkswagens that are much newer, is that rusty wings. Dirt gets trapped in the wing liner and then it gets rotted out. But that is a minor point and we shall gloss over it. Because after all, the Volkswagen Golf is an incredibly successful car. Nearly 50 years the Golf has been going and there are no plans that I know of for it to stop going. You will undoubtedly know this is the Mk4 Golf. Commonly considered to be the slowest, the most boring, the dumpiest, the most lacking character of them all. This one came out in the late 90s and really doesn't have a great deal of style. But Volkswagen don't, do they? They don't do anything particularly flamboyant. Its face looks ever so slightly fishy. Not an interesting fish, you know, not like a Japanese fighting fish, just a fish. And not even a particularly well drawn fish. No, like a child's drawing of a fish. Yeah, that's what they were aiming for. The bonnet, bland. The badge, really firmly attached to stop them from being stolen by beastie boys. The front wing, really rather bland, unless it's got rust on it. The doors, big, flat, slab-sided things that have nothing going on. Then we have the massive C-pillar blind spot, the traditional Golf profile that makes it so distinctive. It's true, for a car that has absolutely no character whatsoever, that does actually give it away from pretty much any distance. Whether this was designed originally because it was aspiring to be a van, I don't really know. But they're stuck with it because, well, it works. It works pretty well as a blind spot, but actually it's not as bad as I was expecting. And then we come around to the back and the Golf does have its own look. The Volkswagen Golf is one of those cars I've never looked at. Oh, well, I mean I have, but I've kind of more looked past them. They never appealed to me. They still don't. The looks is kind of nondescript, yet the back end and that big blind spot do make it an instantly recognisable car. And I respect an instantly recognisable car, whether it's for a good reason or a bad reason. And what I'm interested in is why has been such a runaway success for so long. It is made as a durable German runaround, a small family hatch. Famous people famously like it. It's driven by the aspirational middle class to the aspirational gangster class to working mummies and of course Princess Diana. The idea is, of course, we have a compact hatchback that is practical and properly well built. Durable? Yes. Of course, they had the most fantastically successful advertising campaigns for these cars as well. And there must be something to be said about the fact that even these, the Mk4 Golfs, are practically on every street corner, even now. At 20 odd years old, they're still working. One thing I always associate with the Golf though is bad driving. Not by everyone, but there are a certain selection of people that like newer Golfs than this one, so they can drive really erratically everywhere they're going. In fact, I would say the two worst driven cars on British roads are the VW Golf and the Audi A3. So why are these cars favoured by people who drive like lunatics? And is that previous statement true, or did I just make it up? Well, it is true, isn't it? I think it's down to perceived prestige with the Golf and the Audi as well. And does it deserve it? That's the question. I don't know. Actually, I'm going off track. What about build quality? What about the Golf's famous door shut sounds? No. No. I'm sorry, but I just don't get it. I don't see how that's a good sound. You can hear bits of trim rattling around, and it just doesn't sound that sturdy. What about the rest of the car interior? We're looking for quality. I mean, these switches all look okay. This door card is quite sturdy but a bit rattly. The dashboard, quite firm. You know, I mean, the quality of the interior is actually quite good. I mean, it is good, but it's not outstanding. But this is a high mileage model, nearly 200,000 miles, and it's still kind of together. It's got a few bits broken off here and there. At 21 years old, you'd expect it. So, yeah, it's a yeah. The back door does look quite big. But what about the space in the back? For a small family hatch, it is exactly that. Small. Really, there's not really a lot of room in here. There's enough headroom, but only but not with a sunroof. I mean, look at that there. If I move forward, I'm wedging myself against the roof, you see. Not that you should be doing that anyway. Maybe the assumption is the driver will be a lady who isn't particularly tall, because in the back, well, I am a bit cramped here. Of course, it's not always children that sit in the back of one of these. No, quite often it's lads. Yeah, lads out with their mates, sat 3 abreast, nice and cosy. The Recaro seats are actually quite comfortable, but the carpet is rubbish. The boot, on the other hand, is actually quite big for such a short car. Now, you know, really, I'd consider that maybe the boot would be less important than the rear passenger space, but what do I know? Underneath the bonnet of this car, we're going to find the Volkswagen PD engine, a very, very renowned for reliability engine indeed. But it's wet out there. Why is the PD engine so good? Good question. It's reliable, isn't it? It's reliable, it's very tunable, and they bunged it in quite a lot of cars. And then they replaced it with something else that had less reliability to it. Typical. Progress is about moving backwards. The Mark 4 Golf came with loads of different engines. I mean, I wonder if I can remember them all. Now, you would expect its popularity is down to it being a fantastic driver's car, but it's not really. It's not really what you would call a driver's car. It's just, well, adequate, really. And I don't mean that in any kind of insulting way. It just drives like a car. It doesn't really have any character to it. In fact, the way this car drives is a very good reflection on how it looks, and it doesn't really look like anything, does it? Except a Golf. So why do you think it appeals to the younger generation of people that like to hoon them around so much? Well, it could be because, like I said, prestige, it's considered a really good car, and then also the diesels are very tunable, and everything besides the GTI is actually quite impressive. I've had 2 of these myself. I had a GTI, 8-valve GTI, and I wasn't impressed with that in the slightest bit. I just thought it was a really dull, non-GTI type car. It didn't go particularly well, it didn't look sporting, and it was just dull. And then I had a diesel like this one, which was alright. That's what I thought. It seemed quite punchy. It felt quicker than the GTI, and this one certainly does. A bit whistly and poppy and things, but I'm not sure if it's supposed to be like that, or whether there's something wrong with it. The way it goes round bends is okay. The steering is quite accurate, but it's not exciting. With this engine, the 1.9 turbo diesel, turbos can be uprated, injectors can be uprated, intercooler uprated, a couple of other things you can do as well, and you can make it essentially quite quick. Yeah, quite quick. I'd say that. Definitely a very satisfying shove in the back as it goes. But the only thing is, besides that, it's the only thing I can think of that I like about it. I mean, I don't dislike it, but it just doesn't really do anything for me. It's honestly, I just think it's a bit dull. It's not interesting to look at. It's not interesting to drive. The materials aren't quite as good as you'd hope they would be, and it's just, I don't really quite get the mass appeal. This one's got a bit too much grunt to get any grip. Look, watch. That's the trouble with a front wheel drive car in the rain, especially one with a turbo diesel. Oof. That I wasn't expecting it to go off quite as badly as that, but it is exactly that I think appeals to the boy racers, that proper grunt you can get out of a car that is still economical, even with all this farting around. I'm sure when you're driving it like that around everywhere, it is not particularly economical. Cars like these have always been likened to very clever people that are lacking personality. Rather typically solicitors, bank managers, this kind of thing. But with the grunt, it's like being a bank manager and having nothing exciting to talk about for normal people, but you know quite a few card tricks, or you can do a really good cocktail. Put my foot down even a bit, it just spins. And the tyres aren't bald, but they soon will be if I keep doing that, so I've got to just drive it sensibly instead. What about the 30 to 50 challenge along here? So I'm doing 30 now in 4th gear and go. It doesn't feel rapid when you do that, but it does just pick up. It's just picking up now there. It just goes. It just lunges forward like an unconventional doctor that you prefer not to see. We're doing another 30 to 50 test right now, but this time we'll do it in 3rd gear instead. 30 miles per hour, 30 miles per hour and go. 50, and it soon gets there. I mean, it's not supercar quick or anything like that, but it's really good usable energy. Trouble with this, with diesel cars, I find you just get bored of that power. You get bored of it and you want more, because it's there on tap so much. You don't have to fight for it, you don't have to rev the thing, it's just there low down. You tend to use it quite a lot, and then you just get used to it, and as I said, you want more. Like a greedy Oliver Twist at lunchtime in a fancy boarding school that can afford the grub. What else can I tell you about this then? I can tell you that the diesel has very good fuel economy, unless you're driving it like that. Back to this car's driving characteristics. Yeah, it's all, again, what word is there to describe okay without saying it's okay? I don't know. It just doesn't feel like anything spectacular. It steers and changes gear just like a car does. It doesn't do anything that makes you think, oh, that's really good, that. And that's the whole thing about the Golf that I'm missing. There's no joy to it. It doesn't make you smile to drive it. You put your foot down like that. My theory with Audi drivers is pretty much that, unless they're driving erratically, they're bored. So they do that just to keep themselves awake. And it's a bit like that with this. Would I have a Volkswagen Golf, or specifically a Volkswagen Golf diesel, as an everyday car? And the answer is yes, but also no. I would do as a car that I could just use every day, and I know would probably, that guy nearly ran into the back of me then in his van. Not paying any attention. Don't particularly want that to happen again. The answer is yes, I would do, but I'd feel the need to have another car for when I just want to go for a drive. Admittedly, that really doesn't happen very often, but something that I like, something that I can enjoy driving, because this just wouldn't really do it. The Golf to me is just a car that you have for doing driving jobs that you have to do, like going to the shop, and it just doesn't really feel very glamorous when you put it like that. And it's not. The only redeeming feature this car really has is its punchy engine. I'm sorry if this review seems to have gone on a bit, but I do honestly feel that the Golf deserves a proper consideration as a car, because so many other people buy them. There must be a reason for it. There must be. I was thinking, am I missing out on something here? Is there a car there that everybody buys and goes on about for a good reason? And the answer is only really sort of. So that's my conclusion. The Volkswagen Golf. It's okay. Just had a thought actually. Maybe I'm wrong. This car isn't exciting. It's not interesting. But most people don't want something interesting or exciting. Most people just want a car, don't they? They just want it to work. They just want it to not fall apart. And they just want it to carry the stuff that they cart around with them. And this car does exactly that. So I do recommend it to somebody who just wants a car. If liking the car that you own and drive isn't important, buy a Golf.